Dr. Sutton, we're seeing reports about what appears to be lasting immunity from both the vaccines and also for people who got COVID earlier on. We know that some of the people who contracted the virus have been among the most vocal and most ardent against getting themselves vaccinated. Does that news about lasting immunity prove them right?
It's a complicated subject. I have to say that the additional reports show that those who have had natural infections of COVID-19 and gotten the vaccine have had outstanding levels of durability of their immune responses to COVID-19. So I would say, yes, you have some protection from having a natural infection, but having a vaccine adds to that protection and protects you against future reinfections. So I think I understand why those who have had natural infections might not want to get a vaccine, but the benefits are clear.
To hopefully ward off possible reinfections, we're hearing that people may need booster shots. Do we have any idea when that might happen? And will people have different booster shots depending on which kind of vaccination they got?
Well, this is evolving data. As time goes on, we get more and more information and data regarding the effectiveness of these vaccines and how long they are lasting. So far, every time we're checking, they're still proving to be effective. As far as whether or not we'll need a booster shot, we have to wait for more data to come in to see if that decision is possible. As far as those who have had particular vaccines in the past, will they need a different kind? I think, and I surmise from my understanding of vaccines and the history of vaccines, that regardless of whatever vaccine you first got, it does not change what vaccine you need in the future. For example, if you've gotten Moderna, you would be able to get Pfizer. It should not matter. But again, whether or not that is actually needed is based on the data, and we simply just have to wait and see.
With the antibodies and immunities for people who contracted it naturally sticking around longer, at least according to those reports, add up those people and all of the people who have now been vaccinated, which is now above 50%. Are we at or near herd immunity in the United States, or is that a metric we shouldn't even be looking to at this point?
I think we should certainly include it, and I think we're definitely near that goal of that minimum, that 70% to induce that vaccine-induced herd immunity. If you combine those who have naturally been infected, we're likely closer than we think. However, what we do know is that those who have had natural asymptomatic or mild infections tend to have decreasing levels or waning amounts of their antibody responses, therefore making them theoretically susceptible to reinfection. So it makes it difficult to put all of the people who have had COVID-19 into one box because the variability of their antibody responses, which is one of the reasons why we love for people to get vaccinated, because we have a standard level of immune response. And so as time goes on, we'll get more and more data about these topics.
So herd immunity is something that we should still be keeping an eye out towards, and will that actually change things if we ever get to that number?
Absolutely. So what we surmise and what scientists and epidemiologists and many scientists understand is that when we get to that minimum level of 70%, we have a level of protection within the community that substantially decreases the risk of spread. And again, although our numbers are great right now within the United States, we do know that that is not the same story in other countries around the world, as other variants are causing outbreaks and epidemics in small parts of other countries other than India. So it's important that we do our best to stamp out this virus as much as we can for the pending possible likely future of variants coming up as a threat.
Couple of practical questions for you. The NBA and NHL are now in playoffs. Basketball and hockey arenas packed with 15,000 people per game. Some arenas require proof of vaccination for most fans, but not every team or arena does. Would you have any concerns going to an arena packed with people yelling and cheering at this point?
Personally, yes. I try to avoid spaces with many people of whom I don't know from different households, because that increases my risk of exposure to the virus, even though I am fully vaccinated. My tip to patients and community members is simply, if you're around people that you don't know and you don't know about their vaccine status, it's probably best to wear a mask. And it's really simple. And regardless of your vaccine status, if you're around a lot of people, I think do your best to decrease your risk of being exposed and transmitting this virus.
On that same front, bars, nightclubs, and other social scenes are coming back to life, and you would assume that that means more intimate interactions are rebounding as well. Blunt question for you, is casual sex, especially with a new partner, COVID safe for vaccinated people?
For vaccinated people, I think intimate interactions between two people is a relatively safe interaction. Obviously, we're just discussing COVID and not all the other adverse effects that come with sex. But for obviously, my perspective of disease is on population basis and community basis. So I think interactions between two individuals are relatively low risk, given the fact that both of those individuals are vaccinated. But I think the risk is introduced when you step into large groups in low or limited ventilated areas.
Finally, Doctor, we're seeing more and more of the U.S. opening up, and at the same time, there is news of new lockdowns and new restrictions in other countries, including Japan, Australia, India, and elsewhere. Two questions. What's the difference between their timelines and ours? Is it all because of vaccinations? And will what's happening there impact us here?
A large part of their timelines and the difference between their timelines and ours is simply vaccinations. We have seen tremendous decreases in the rates of cases and hospitalizations since the output of these vaccines across the country. And also, unfortunately, that's not the same story to be told in other countries, which is why likely these lockdowns are occurring. As far as whether or not they'll be associated to our future, I have a tremendous faith in the fact that these vaccines are not only proving effective in the variants that we're seeing here, but they're proving effective in the variants that we're seeing in other parts of the country, or other parts of the world when we test for them. So I do not think that it will cause us a significant threat, but of course we also have to have cautious optimism and be wary of the possibility of a variant coming up that might be more of a threat than we initially have seen before.
Some terrific insights from Dr. Darien Sutton, ABC News medical contributor. Dr. Sutton, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.